So that's helped get you back into a better place. So you look
Absolutely.
at review, which is, looking at back at those where you came in, right? Position 1. Anybody else? All right. So I know for me this week it was that around. I kind of did some looking at like what I was focusing on too. Within that of what's got my attention most of the time, and how do I, if it's not something that I need to be focusing on, like how do I redirect that into something I need to be, and so I did the same kind. I was looking at my notes this weekend when I went through. I was looking at a couple of Bible verses, but it was like basically I was looking back, like I said, I've received all these different things that were so important. Like kind of what you were just saying, like at one point in time I never thought I'd have, right? And they were so huge then and when I first got them, but I have a tendency to like not even acknowledge them at times now. Like if I look back at when I first got clean, it was like, will I ever have a job? Or I remember like when they told me I was going to get a job, I really thought the best job I was going to be able to get was going to be like go out, I was going to go dig a hole, and at the end of the day they're going to tell me to fill it up and show back up tomorrow and redig the hole. That was going to be about as good as it got. And now I have a tendency to look at my job some days and be like, this sucks, or this is, I can't believe I got to put up with this, or I can't believe I got to deal with this. And I look at like, well, 6 years ago my income was X and I was doing this other thing and I was happy, barely, I was surprised I had that. Now here I am, 7, 8 years later with all this different income and all these different responsibilities, and I can get ungrateful real quick because there's too much point being there was too much emphasis on me, and what I wanted and the things being the way I thought they should look versus emphasis on God and what God wants to happen, right, and the way He wants it to happen, and how do I relate that to the other people around me. When I'm at work, that means the people around me at work, right? When I'm at home, it's the people around me at home, and balancing those times and hours out, around all that too, of not staying in places that are easier to manage that, because sometimes work's actually easier for me to manage that than it is at home, because at work I can throw myself into work and keep distracted, whereas at home I've got kids and things I got to pay, t-ball games, things like that can be distracting, or stuff that at the point I don't really want to do sometimes until I get there. So I've tried to make some changes in some stuff that's not Eric first driven, I guess. So one for me was and this sounds like I'm not a real social guy. I used to be. I think when I partied all the time, I was a super social guy. I was always planning my next social event, every day. And then once I got clean, it's just been a little bit different about that. Like I look at stuff sometimes, I'm like, such an effort, and I forget that part of my recovery is just being with people and enjoying whoever it is that God puts in my life at that moment. And I have trouble enjoying those things. I just, for some reason, it stresses me out. I at times can work myself into a place called like there's so many things that we got to do to get there and to get ready that I'll work myself into a frenzy of like not even wanting to go. And then I'm there, I'm miserable the whole time. So my thing this weekend was like, thankful for where I'm at. Kind of went through that, thank for a think thing and went through some gratitude list. My wife was like, I want to go out with some people on Saturday and go hang out, spend the day. And I've met one of them twice. The other one I don't hardly know at all. And I was like, first thing I think is like, now I gotta hate these people all day. What are we gonna do? And then they're gonna want to go down here, and then we're gonna drive around. It's hot outside, and she's gonna go drive in their Jeep, which I don't like. So I was gonna go down that path, and I was like, no. At one point in time, you would have killed to be outside. Go enjoy this. Go spend some time. Be open and focus on watching her enjoy herself, and then be open to whatever the relationship is that's in front of you in that moment. We ended up having a really good time. Went down, had lunch, walked around. Obviously the weather was really pretty, and I realized the problem much like anything else, the problem with these situations is me. It's not the situations. I can enjoy or not enjoy any situation that I'm put in. And the fact that I struggle with enjoying situations that are social and fun, right, is if I take a step back, it's silly, right? I'm thinking I struggle with getting into a cool Jeep, driving down by the ocean, hanging out with people at a restaurant because I don't see the point in it. And the point is just to enjoy it, just like anything else, be there and make the most of it. And so, anyway, that really helped me this week. What we talked about really helped me going into the weekend where I would have probably been all up here, self-obsessed and self-absorbed and not able to interact and have a good time. It was funny, I was talking to the guy I was with, and he's the same way. Where I was like, hey, I was just being transparent with him. I was like, hey, I'm glad we did this. I was like, normally I'm like, I'm not into this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And he started laughing. He goes, dude, I'm the same way. He goes, all I think about is, so it was we ended up connecting, having a good conversation. He ended up talking to me about my recovery because he didn't know, so he was talking about whatever, going to a place to have a beer or something like that. We were just shooting the crap and talking about sailing and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I wouldn't drink, but I'd go. And he was like, yeah, no, I got to explain. He was like, whoa, you didn't drink. So that opened up the door to kind of witness about my testimony. And it made him, he told me afterwards, he was like, man, it's really cool to know that, if I ever wanted to quit drinking or something like that, there's people out there that are cool to hang out with that, I don't have to go drink with you guys. If we don't want to drink, we can go hang out. It's not like we have to go get bombed with our neighbors and everybody else that we hang out with. So anyway, it's a cool deal. So that's me rambling on about
I made my amends with my dad on Sunday.
Good deal.
Yeah. I just told him I'd like to sit down and talk to him and talk to him for a little bit, and he actually responded in a good way and was proud of me for even stepping up to even do that, and just it was all positive. It was pretty cool.
It's awesome.
I mean, there's a one point he cut me off, not in a mean way or anything, but just because he wanted to say some stuff, which was cool. So I just let him talk for a little bit, and then I kind of just went back into what I was trying to get into, and it went pretty quick. So,
good deal.
Yeah.
He's local here?
Citrus County, about an hour and a half away from here.
Good. That's a big step.
Yeah.
Feel better?
Yeah.
Conquer some fears?
Yeah, it was, you got to talk with Jake about it. Don't, to not go into it thinking too much about what I'm going to say. Just go ahead and say what's on my heart and not overthink it. And there was a part of me that I thought there was I wanted an expectation out of it, and I had to stop myself. And so I was talking to Jake before I even went and did it, and I had to take a step back and pray about it and just do it, because there's a part of me that for some reason that point where
Yes.
well, I wasn't. I mean, it's not like I wasn't gonna do it, but it at first seemed like something was trying to hold me back. So I just got outside of myself and just did it.
Yes, I will.
Which is pretty cool. I had to really get deep and honest with myself and pray about it, and then went and did it. So it's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Making amends.
Yeah.
I feel like weight lifted off of you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I always love about any type of amends situation. It's weird.
It's been a long time coming. I mean, me and Jason have gone over on my amends 3 or 4 times, because the first time was all about me being sorry, and that wasn't really the way to go about it. I mean, they've heard that so many times in my past. I'm sorry, and and it wasn't about me. All my forgivenesses in the world couldn't do nothing. I just had to thank him for everything that he's done for me, and that he positioned himself in such a way that at that point I didn't receive what he was trying to tell me back then. And all they wanted me was to learn from my mistakes and have a better life and to move forward. And back then I couldn't see it. At that point I went in a complete opposite direction from where they were at. They worked their whole lives. My dad managed a museum for 28 years. My mom was out of hospital for 32 years. And they did nothing but save their money, never got in trouble. So I know to them, that was all new to them, everything that I basically took them through. But it was, it's a cool experience to be able to go and do that. They get to meet me where I'm at now, and not the person I was before. So it was cool.
Very cool. Good stuff. Anybody else got anything?
I visited my family and it went really awesome. A lot better than I could have hoped for. And really cool because I talked to my neighbor who is like hardcore born again type thing, but before I came here and learned all this and stuff, I was kind of like, I just got out of jail and was like, all right, help me or whatever. But I wasn't there yet, but I thought I kind of was. But I went to him for like guidance and just continued to crash and burn after that. So he seen me, really go down hard. And when I came back, we just had I didn't get into specifics of, what's right and what's wrong, or, get too specific in his beliefs or mine, but we just had a conversation about God. And at the end, he was crying, he was like, tears in his eyes, straight up, that's awesome. And gave me a big hug, and that was great. It was really just because I wasn't even doing anything, just talking, not even trying to sound any certain way, just talking. And that was really, really awesome. And then I went to lunch with my family, and they basically asked for my forgiveness, which was backwards. It was crazy. My mother, and it was stuff I was just talking about with Alex on my second step about, kind of family trauma and resentments I held for a long time, and they basically just brought up exactly. I was just talking to Jake about it 2 nights before. My mother brought up what I was talking about her, my father on that side, and they're like, I'm sorry, but I want you to know, even though I might not always be right, it was the best I knew how, and I knew that, but it was just awesome that they're here. I told them if they're open for forgiveness, they got it, and I hope they can forgive me for everything. But it was just crazy. It was definitely nuts, and I wasn't even doing anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, just show up and be authentic, and, be obedient. It was crazy. When I get dropped off, my father's looking at me all weird. I'm like, what's up? He's like, you're amazing. It's and I didn't even, it was just crazy. It was backwards. And it was really, really awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That was did you get to spend Mother's Day with him? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Saturday I went to do that. But dude, it was just crazy. I pumped on that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of getting into broke through something because I just feel great lately. More consistent, as getting upset easy and not even really getting upset, dealing with it how I should a little bit better. So I just want to keep it going.
How long has it been since you spent time with them like that?
They came here for a testimony night and stuff, but that was kind of different because we didn't really have too much one-on-one time.
Right.
We did for probably 10 minutes out back, but again, and they're not completely themselves, you know what I mean? Relaxed completely, it's just around company, so it's different kind of stuff. But that'd be the first time in the 6 weeks I've been here that it was just me and them, just spending time together like that. So it was pretty awesome. Good time.
So if the key is, because we've heard a couple people share, Will with his amends and you meeting with your family. If the key is, or the common denominator of these two is, right, you guys met with them and put yourself in a position to be authentic, right? That's really, I mean, in nuts and bolts, that's what it was. And when you did that, like, good things happened, right? It's a little bit different than you probably anticipated. Like you said, definitely different than you anticipated. You said definitely different than you anticipated, and both better than you anticipated. So if we look at being authentic with people, would you guys agree that being authentic with people is something that we have the option to do at any point in time?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a choice. Everybody would agree that, okay. So what stops us
Log off here.
from being authentic? And if you take and kind of put yourself in these two scenarios, and everybody just kind of take a similar one. If you've made amends with somebody, if you've had somebody since you've been in recovery, or coming into recovery. I remember coming into recovery. What kept me from coming into recovery, right? That was part of. We could have restored or attempted to restore those relationships earlier, right? But we didn't until now. And what was it that kept us from doing those things?
Yeah, he was just gonna have me.
Now, or
I just
like when
downloaded
Or you did it
First
now, but years back. Say 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Well, I mean, for me,
And the obvious, like obviously, I know, like I was high. I mean, that might be one thing, but outside of that answer, like,
Yes.
Does that mean scared of judgment? Probably.
I would say something close to fear.
okay, so fear, resentment, and scared of being judged.
yeah,
Okay.
let's say I didn't trust people enough to let them in to know what was really going on with me.
Okay, so that would kind of go along with fear, right? You just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
trust. You don't trust them because X. It's a
Yeah.
fear that they will, lie to you, cheat on you, whatever, right?
Was it like lack of faith?
Like faith in the other people.
No,
Or-
in God, just like the whole thing of like, well, if I'm authentic, or if I say this is what's gonna happen. You presume in, that. Like for me, I imagine the worst case reaction, and so I'm basically thinking that okay, God's not gonna show up. I know I know the reaction to this. I know what it's
Okay.
gonna be like. So I would say that I would characterize that for me as like a lack of faith in God, how God's gonna use it.
Okay, good. So, going down that path. So we talked about how position one is that God is God, right? So could you see how that stance would be a God's not God because I know better type scenario, right?
yeah.
It's not a conscious decision you look at, say, because some of us at that point in time didn't really think about God much anyway. But the decision is like I know better, right? I would do this, but I know better. And so when you think about some of the reasons you didn't take that step into recovery, probably the chances you had before now, what were some of the reasons you didn't do it?
I got
Repeat
Like-
that. Repeat that again.
Everybody, you've been clean, what,
Almost 2 years, yeah.
yeah, almost 3 years. So
2
4
years.
years ago, why didn't you get in recovery? What stopped you? Because you knew about it, right? You weren't
Myself?
oblivious. I know. What about yourself? Like somebody said, hey, Will, why don't you come to a meeting with me? Why wouldn't you go?
Afraid, I mean, basically the same, just afraid of what people would think of me. I was high at that time. If I really look back at it, I didn't want to go to meetings, or I didn't want to
Okay.
get help. I was so caught up in my addiction that I just, like in a sense, didn't care. I mean, cared, but didn't care at the same time.
Okay. Care but didn't care. Okay. Anybody else?
Not having the desire to get clean yet,
Okay. Why not?
because I like being high.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I didn't want to face the issues that I'd stuffed for so long.
Okay.
Because I'd gotten clean before, and I knew that's exactly what it did. brought
that
up
those
stuff
realities.
that, you know, I had to deal with that I didn't deal with.
Okay.
Felt like I could manage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. Like, as you keep using the problems, keep getting bigger and bigger and more obvious and obvious. So you definitely don't want to deal with them then. So you just keep getting higher and higher to forget about it until eventually you just like kind of have to.
You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't believe in God at all either. Like I was totally and that kept being brought up all the time. And I was like, oh, if that's what got people sober, that's not gonna work for me because I don't believe in that.
Right.
So that was a big one for me. I didn't have any faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
See that too.
cool.
So where does it show the video?
It's changed since then, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And so with each of us, if we talk about the recovery, I think with each of us, I might be wrong. Most of us got in recovery because it was like there's no other option at that point in time, kind of thing, right? I mean, we can say there were options, but the options were like, get locked up for a long time, die, or
Yeah.
we felt like there was really no other option. It's kind of like we had come like option A or option I don't know.
We were just talking
And so,
about that, so.
the reason I bring it up, it's important. I kind of heard both of you guys talking about it. Is so if I worded it like this, so if I think back to
It is connected.
when I would, because there were moments where I wanted to get clean, like when I get really sick or bad crap would happen, I'd be like, I gotta quit, I gotta do something, I need to get help, and then I'd, wait a little bit and start looking at like, okay, what does help mean? Well, that means I gotta go to meetings, or I gotta go to a counselor, or I gotta, I'd start looking at this thing, and that's when I'd be like, well, I don't, anyway, there's a picture that comes into mind of what it looks like, right? And what we do is make that picture typically so big or so negative that we never approach that thing because we've already got it all figured out. And what we figured out is now I've convinced myself that what I'm in actually is better than what I could be moving into. Right? So I kind of justified my crappy spot by painting a picture that the next spot's even worse. And it's a hypothetical position, right? So like when I come to recovery, it's like I don't know if I want to go to recovery because if I go to recovery, then I'm going to be, I've already decided, right? Like, or the church thing, right? That was one of the things I used to think about church. Oh, I don't want to go to church, then something's going to, I don't know what they're going to do to me, but something's going to happen, and I'm going to be the guy sitting in the front row with a tambourine, waving my hands around everywhere. Everybody's going to think I'm a weirdo, and then, game over, I'm knocking on doors and handing Bibles out, right? Right? It would get that like crazy and irrational, but that vivid, and I would paint it all the way down to a path until I finally got to a place that caused me a strong enough emotional response to say, there you go, there's my decision. So then it would back into an action, right? That says, okay, no, it's not, there's no way, or I can't, or it won't work, or blah, blah. So if we look at, going back to the question of amends, it's a very similar thing, right? So